Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Zaks Traders Cafe Weekly Review. I'm Molly Eldridge, and this is, of course, Zak Mir. Hello, Zak. How are you?
Very well, actually. We were just discussing offline the reaction to this particular video cast, and I'm glad to say that nobody mentioned me at all. So I think we're on the right track.
Yes, indeed. Um, yeah, so it's been quite a week. Things are, I think, starting to settle down a little bit post US elections, and there's sort of a little bit less uncertainty. Hopefully, retail prices are going to go up again next week when we have Black Friday. Let's see. But I was in town this week, and I got a little bit caught in the farmers' rally. Everyone was there in their welly boots and with their tractors and everything. Were you around? Did you see that?
I can't afford Wellington boots, and I can't afford a tweed jacket, so that rules me out. But I think, as I've said recently, the reason that there wasn't IHT on farmers and farming is because it's such a weak business, a weak form of business that it wasn't worth taxing, and it was an incentive for people to invest in farms and farming, knowing that they wouldn't be subject to IHT. So people like Jeremy Clarkson and Dyson and other people who invested in farmland were actually getting compensated for the millions that they have to put into farming, and normally trade at a loss or trade at break even on
Yeah.
that basis. So actually, that is I think, the reality of the situation. Obviously, everyone has to pay their tax, and farmers obviously deserve to pay their tax like anyone else, because they get up at the crack of dawn and they work all day, and then there can be a storm and they can lose everything in one go. But that is, I think, the reality. And the idea was basically a lack of IHT on farms was an incentive for people to invest in farming. And I think whether actual farmers will agree with that or not, that's my particular theory. And the other point, obviously, is that the tax, like other things like school fees and other things that this government has come up with, don't actually make much of a difference financially. Just a few £100 million here and there, but they do rather irritate people. Hence the near 2 million people signing the petition to call for Starmer to call an election immediately. Obviously, we know he will never do that because he spent a lot of time trying to get into power. But I think it's a good opinion poll, if nothing else, for people who are upset that they didn't perhaps get what they ordered on July the 4th.
Yeah. Well, I think personally, I think it does make a difference for some people. So for people like Jeremy Clarkson, for example, we've mentioned this VAT on school fees and this inheritance tax, but someone like Jeremy Clarkson is in the fortunate position where he can just pop, he can set up a trust and go about it that way. Whereas many of these farmers do not have the luxury, the cash to be able to set up such a thing. And it takes lots of, planning and advice and money to do something like that, to protect your assets. And hence why they're also angry and were marching in the streets of Westminster earlier this week. So I'm not sure, and I think the same with the school fees. Sure, there's a band of people that it may not affect, and that's fine. But for many people, it does. I think it does affect them.
No, it does affect them, but the problem is that, and it's the reason why income tax came into being 100 years ago or so. It was politics of envy. It was taxing the rich is the only way of getting poor people to pay tax. And you keep saying, we've obviously mentioned Jeremy Clarkson. He's a multi-billionaire, so if
Yeah.
he's upset, then most Labour supporters or socialists be very, very pleased indeed. They'll think they're doing the right thing. And so that's that. And then obviously the other people, the pushy parents who send their children to tiger mums who send their children to private schools so that they can be better than the rest of us. Again, that rather plays into the hands of the socialist argument. So politics of envy is what we've got. Don't think it really raises any money, but it is something that, and I think the government believes it. I think the government believes that if you come up with these strategies, that's better for working in brackets class people. I should have said working open brackets close, whatever it is. But it's better
Yes,
for
yes.
working class people, and so it's their ideology and it's their dogma and it's the way they work. I would, for the people signing the petition, I would actually say that the government and all the leading people in the cabinet, I'm sure they do believe that it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to tax school fees. School fees. It is the right thing to add inheritance tax to farmers. But it's an ideology, and I think what we're seeing now with the protest is that I don't think anybody likes ideology politics. They actually want what's best, for everyone, or what's best for the country. And if it is the case that you raise, or put up IHT on farms, but then you subsidize. If the best thing was for education to actually subsidize private education, that's something which is, both from the left and the right. And I think people actually are maybe fed up with ideology on both sides, either with the Tory ideology that we had for 14 years, where they were supposed to be helping big business, or with the Labour ideas that you're helping working class people. So I think that's the issue. And maybe we're starting to grow out of that left-right type of thing. But at the moment, it's a mess. And I've seen that people have written that the Labour government's actually trying to get all the horrible stuff out of the way in year one, so that by the time the election comes through in 2028 or whenever it's going to come in, then all of this, all of these shenanigans will be a distant memory. But I think that unfortunately, I think there is this government is against the grain of most British people, in the sense that it is a bit too left wing for most. I think it's against the spirit of what people actually, most people believe. They do think that people have the right to send their children to private school. Farmers have the right not to pay extra tax because they are already in a very difficult area. If you watched Clarkson's farm, you'll see that he made like 50 quid in the first year. So to then pay inheritance tax is ridiculous. So that's the thing. So it's not just about being, taking from the rich and giving to the poor as well. We probably already know that if you take from the rich and give to the poor, then you just have less rich people and you have the same amount of poor people who normally don't do anything with that extra money you give them. The £1 a week, or £1, so £1 an hour extra minimum wage is not going to help build wealth or build business. That's the problem.
Yes.
It tends to be if you claim less tax or you tax people less, then they're more likely to set up a business, they're more likely to invest, they're more likely to do things. As you can see with the government's, with the existing EIS strategy that you have on investments. EIS is a fantastic weapon for new businesses that you can invest in this podcast and get 30% tax free of your profits, or 40%, etc., etc. And I think you went to one of these sort of initiatives, these sort of pro-business initiatives during the week, didn't you?
I did. I was there on Tuesday. It was sort of run by Innovate UK, and there was a lot of talk about green investment into the clean tech space, obviously more investment into the renewable space. They had VC funds speaking there, UK National Wealth Fund. It was a really good, some sort of government officials. It was a really good mixture of people. I had a panel actually with a couple of different VC funds, a lady from the UK National Wealth Fund, and they were discussing, yeah, investment into green projects and green finance and how it's been over the last couple of years. And this sort of all this talk in the media about a slowdown, particularly with around EVs and investing into sort of batteries and lithium batteries, sodium batteries, and them saying that times are tough. The markets have been tricky for everyone, and this slowdown is just a media hype. This sort of energy transition, this green transition is going to happen, despite the fact that things may be a little bit slower at the moment, doesn't mean that it's slowing down in the grand scheme of things, in the bigger picture. So, stop listening and stop believing everything that you hear in the media, basically, and just step back and look at the bigger economic picture, really. So there was a guy there, the name of the particular VC fund that he works for escapes me, but he was talking about actually it's taken funds like his and some of these sort of bigger corporate banks a little while to get educated in this space, in this new space. A lot of the technology for these projects is still being tested, still being developed. They might change. So they've been very, very uncertain and have had to be quite careful with investing money and, backing the right horse up until this point, because there's quite a lot of money going into this, and it's still quite uncertain as to which direction some of these projects might go. So, for example, NMC batteries versus LFP batteries, so lithium iron phosphate batteries versus nickel manganese cobalt batteries. So, one is longer range, the other is shorter range, one is cheaper, one is more expensive, but the research and development going into it is still young and it's still ongoing. So no one really knows which horse to back. But they're now, jumping more on board. They've all got their heads around the fact that this energy transition is going to happen in whichever way that may be. And so they've all sort of had to educate themselves a little bit in their teams, and they're all starting to put a lot more money into it despite the slowness over the last few years. So it was very interesting. They're sort of actively looking for projects to push the space forward.
Well, there are a few points there. One is that, Innovate UK presumably gets its money from the taxpayer and then decides how to spend it. I'm not sure government has a great track record in investing in winners. Wasn't even great at investing in PPE during the pandemic. So is it the role of government to be an investor, or do you just all the tax dollars or tax pounds that Innovate UK has to spend? Wouldn't it be better if that was just kept with the entrepreneurs, and then they can decide, like the Dysons or like the Clarksons or whatever, is they can decide how to invest. The other problem is that can we actually afford to invest in what is, as you've practically admitted, can we afford to invest in what is still a science experiment with batteries, etc., with a chemistry experiment? In fact, it could be 5, 10 years, 20 years before we get the right battery. We haven't had the breakthrough yet on the battery front, whether it's for EVs or even with your phone. So we're still in a transitional stage. And of course, there are still one or two people, perhaps like the president-elect of the United States, who either think that we can't do anything about it, i.e. climate change, etc. And we're just going around like King Canute, trying to turn back the tide of something which you can't actually change. So the various issues there. We're all been we've all been sort of pulled onto this energy transition thing. But what difference can a 60 or 70 million pound 60 or 70 million population country deliver when there's 8 billion people in the world? So various issues there, which I think as perhaps an slightly older person than you, one might have slightly different different priorities in life. But looking at my, but by the time I'm done and dusted in 10 years' time, I don't think this will be resolved. And we've had many over the years. We've had many,
Very
many of these sorts
pessimistic
of
view of that.
initiatives from the 70s onwards with the green lobby, and we're going to have an ice age by 2000, and we're going to have all sorts of things which never happened, and lots of things that we thought would never happen have happened. The ozone layer was one of them. I'm not sure what. I think that was resolved okay in an okay way with aerosols, but in general, we haven't. It's been a random walk, and I think the problem here is the new technology is very, very expensive. I probably, if I was going to go for anything, I'd probably go for the small, the modular nuclear reactors, and just have a few of them spattered about. I'm not worried about any nuclear waste, because probably have a nuke hitting us any day now from Russia. So as long as you take your iodine tablets, you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
the whole, all of this is, just even the EV thing. I mean, that's been a fiasco. It is a fiasco. The range.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
have you
The
seen the
range
news earlier this week about Northvolt? Closing, it's sort of almost like a sort of British Volt story all over again. So,
so what
Ford
happened there?
So Northvolt have declared bankruptcy in the US. I think sort of similar strategy to British Volt a few years ago, trying to do sort of too much too soon. And a CEO of Northvolt has just stepped down. And I don't know. It's essentially sort of blaming the. I think he was a little bit cheeky actually in his comments, sort of trying to blame the sort of transition of the times rather than actually just accept that maybe the intention was there. But I think as with a new industry and with so much research and development still to come, I think trying to do everything all at once, too much too soon, is just going to be a recipe for disaster. We have to move forward in this space somehow, some way. There are lots of people who have a very positive outlook on this. There are lots of people who have a very pessimistic outlook on this. But change has to happen. It's gonna come. It's my view at least. So let's step by step, rather than trying to do everything all at once and tackle this giant.
Right. So is that's nothing to do with go woke, go broke, is it? That kind of thing.
Go word, go
But
broke.
no, it's just like go woke, go broke. So that's the sort of
Go woke, go
cliche.
broke.
The cliche. So you're virtue signaling. It's greenwashing. It's all that sort of stuff. So BP puts 10 billion pounds into a wind farm in Norfolk to show that it's all it's not polluting the atmosphere. It's not reliant on fossil fuels. All that kind of stuff. And that's the problem. And these businesses, the ones which are very high tech, they're 5 or 10 years away from profitability. We are in a sort of relatively illiquid period now, and people, there are not that many investors to invest in what are massive national level projects. Rolling out EV charging is a multi-billion pound task, and I would, you or I, neither you nor I would have an EV, because the EVs don't go far enough unless you're driving around London and hoping that your battery doesn't run out. It's just not it hasn't worked. I mean, just
It
be fair.
hasn't been developed enough yet. People have range anxiety, don't they? And
Exactly,
so they don't want to invest in an
hasn't
EV
worked. I mean, you
because
can tell by your phone it hasn't worked. These things are still, years away. And why, when the time comes, when the time is right, then it can be rolled out. But in the meantime, we're still reliant on gas. We're still reliant on petrol, etc. And that's it. And it works really well. Works really, really well. Even coal worked really well. They all, they were.
well,
It was, this country
yeah.
did
I mean, it
great
works. Not that the
on fossil
environment
fuels.
doesn't work.
Sorry.
not for the environment, it doesn't work so well. And I
But we
think
have no, yeah,
this
but we yeah, we
this
have no choice.
change.
We have 8 billion people. We have no choice at the moment. If we don't rely on fossil fuels, we will all freeze to death. Like pensioners or something like that. It would be awful.
What about this? Okay, what about this, Gen Z, Gen Z? What about this new generation coming through? The importance, the sort of doing the right thing is very important to them. And, sort of, all these sort of ESG requirements coming in and people being held accountable, understanding every element of the supply chain, where that comes from, what happened, I think the shift may actually be driven by, maybe not sort of yours or my generation, but actually by this new generation coming in and them wanting to hold someone accountable for how things have been done so far.
But that's all well and good, but somebody's got to pay for all that red tape, bureaucracy, ESG, and everything else. It's a terrible cost on
Oh,
business, and I think you're borderline Gen Z, and
I'm not
therefore
so sure
you've
about
got
that.
you're probably like
I wish.
part millennial, part Gen Z, which is what a great mix that is. But I wish I was a baby boomer, really, but that's the thing that these that they all these people forget that the money has to come from somewhere. Somebody has to do the work, and somebody has to pay for all the the accountants and the lawyers and the due diligence and all the other stuff that you have to do when you're actually running a business. It is quite frightening. And that may be why we have static growth, and we've had static growth for many years because you've got all this sort of red tape piled on businesses, lots of which is based on the greenwashing and the obviously diversity as well, and all the other things which we have at the moment. At the end of the day, businesses have to make money in order to pay tax to pay for the Gen Zs to be able to complain about these things and have benefits and have healthcare and all the other stuff. All that stuff that we have, the massive welfare state, is paid out of
Mm.
business. And if you kill business or you have it swimming through treacle with all these aspects, then it's not going to work, and it's not working.
It's a good point, actually. That was another thing that was discussed at this event that I was at earlier this week, this sort of idea of green premium. Is that viable? Is that going to work? This discussion around why would a customer come and pay for, black mass or batteries or lithium within the UK when they can get it 5 times cheaper from China. And the discussion was around, well, this sort of we'll put this green premium on it. Green premium meaning, it has specific ESG requirements. It's all sort of, mined in the best possible way, or not even mined, it's recycled materials. So it's all well and good. And so, people were challenging this and saying, well, hang on a second, people, where's all this money coming from? Who's going to pay for this green premium, and whose responsibility is it? Is it the business's responsibility to pay for that? Is it the customers? And so people are saying, actually, I don't think that's not going to work. We can't. People are going to go for the cheapest option to get the job done. So there's still quite a lot of there's a lot to be developed and there's a lot to be done. But I'm feeling positive about it. I think, it's moving in the right direction. Something has to change. So TBC.
So when do you think we'll get to this promised land of greenness and no pollution and clean
I
water?
think it's a work in progress always, Zach. I don't think there's an end point here.
What, by about 40 years, 50 years, something like that?
Well, what are they saying? They're saying, I mean, the thing is, they keep moving the benchmark, don't they? 2030 and 2035. So, I mean, I think
Well,
That's much too long.
as long as it's after 2050, I won't be around to see it, so I'm not bothered. It's fantastic, really. But well, I mean, it might not. Maybe 2030 might be pushing it actually. But no, I
Yeah.
think these things we've had. There was so much of that by the year 2000. Because I remember from the 70s, right? By the year 2000, we had this, and this, and
Yeah.
we didn't have anything, and we'd be on Mars, and we'd be doing this, and be all doors would be sliding doors, they'd be automatic, and and with all that sort of stuff. I mean, just it hasn't happened. But I think that it's great talking about the green transition when you've got two horrific wars going on in the world. I'd rather sort those out than worry about.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what's the carbon footprint of the war in Ukraine? Those tanks going around and all the other stuff that they're doing. I think it's more important, and it was always has been. It's more important. It's more important to, for instance, get proper water supply in Africa, to get
I agree with that.
get to roll out democratic countries, to bring democracy to countries is more important. Healthcare, these things like that, rather than worrying about how much carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
There are those things. So this is a Marie Antoinette. This is the equivalent of a Marie Antoinette situation. You've got people starving and people shooting each other, and you're worried about the temperature is 1.5 degrees above whatever it is, or I mean,
This
who
is the world
cares?
we live in. One side of Ukraine, you've got bombs going off, and the other side of Ukraine, you've got Ryanair flights still flying in, and people are going on their hen do's, their stag do's. It's such a paradox, the world that we live in. It's unbelievable, really. So in all
That's
this
sort of yeah, but
time,
that's sort of yeah, but that's sort of that's what I'm that's kind of what I'm
no, no,
pointing.
I know, I know, no, it's your point. So what can we depend on at the moment then, in this time of uncertainty?
Well, I'm not. I'm not. I think what we can depend on is having to. It is the slippery slope of, this virtue signaling. It is more government control. It is more cost on people. I think the thing that people do forget with business, especially the sort of the weight of red tape and all the other things, and green requirements and this requirements, is that 8 out of 10 new businesses fail. And so and we need businesses, we need entrepreneurs. Why would you set up a business and then which has a 2 in 10 chance of succeeding, and then if you do actually succeed, then you're hit by a barrage of this, that, and the other, which will still stop you, or which will get in the way of you succeeding on an ongoing basis. So you've got your own business, a consulting business. It'd probably be easy for you to work as a consultant for the NHS or for the Department of Trade or whatever it, and have a pension, and not have to talk to me every week, and it would be fantastic. It would be really easy for you. That's the thing. But we need the private sector. We need people to take a risk, and they get taxed less, or they have previously, because they're taking risk. It's why you don't get taxed if you bet on the 330 at Kempton, because the chances of winning are very small, and it's an encouragement to do something. Less tax encourages you to do things. More tax stops you doing things. And whether it's going to a restaurant, or whether it's that's the other thing. I mean, you need money to make the economy go round. Holidays, restaurants, all these things like that. That's the problem. But the government is pro the public sector, and it's anti the private sector. It wants everything to be under the public roof, and that's basically what it is. So I don't know why they don't have, rather than Jet2, why don't they have government holiday, a government holiday scheme. You go on a government holiday to here, there, or everywhere else. Why don't they just start? Government should just start its own businesses.
Yeah.
I was thinking about because you
don't suggest it to them.
Yeah, I will. No, but it really. I mean, you earn your money. you might as well just send it straight to HMRC, and then they just give you back what you deserve. That would be, so you don't have to pay for an accountant. Let them, let's have a deposit account at HMRC. You send all your money there, and at the end of the year they give you,
a little bit
what's
back.
left, and so you can save money on accountants, and stuff like that. But that might be taking it too far, because but at
Well,
the moment,
it feels like it at the moment. It feels that way.
well, it is a bit, yes, it is like that. It is like that. But maybe to try and finish on a happier note.
Yes, let's go back to happier. What can we depend on in these times of uncertainties?
I think it's one of those things. I look at this week. There's a company called Games Workshop, which sort of software for games, computer games, includes in the name. And that's been one of, I think it's going to get into the FTSE 100. Shares were up 20% last week or something like that. And that has been around for like 20, 30 years. And so its market cap might be now 5 billion or 6 billion. But I mean, even 7 years ago, it was only like a 300 or 400 million pound company. But, you sort of think, that is an extended success story, great British success story. I hope it's British. And, it's now a 6 billion pound company, and it'll be paying its taxes. And, we need companies like that. We need people to set up the next software company, and we don't have enough of those in this country at all. And that's the main issue, that you have to encourage people, almost pay people to set up a business. I mean, it's very easy to set up a business. It costs like 50 quid or something like that on Companies House. But we need that. We need people to be to set up businesses, to be successful, and then give back to the country and the community that way, rather than putting all these barriers in their way, which is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. I mean, there was an article in the Times about because Zoe Ball has left Radio 2, £1 million a year, £1 million a year job. It's obviously really tough, right? And she's probably only keeping half of that as well, which is horrible, really. And so she's given up. She's 50 or 51 or something like that. And there was an article in the Times by obviously a hardworking lady who said that I like Zoe Ball, gave up working at the age of 50. And I have to say, it's difficult to argue with that, whether you're a man or a woman, because you've only got another 10 years of active life yet before some disease hits you. And you're, basically whatever you're doing is 50-50 with, you're taxed effectively at 50%, with national insurance. You've got all the hoops and all the other stuff you have to go through. You have to get into work. You can't say anything in the office because it may not be the right thing to say. Because of different rules and stuff like that. And so I would just say anyone over 50, I mean, obviously I work because I love it. It's a passion, and I'm addicted to it and everything else. Nothing to do with money at all. But it is difficult to see why and how people motivate themselves to work. I think there are like 4 million people on sickness benefit of one kind at the moment. I don't, 4 million. It's like 3.8, 4 million people on sickness benefit.
Gosh, is it that many people?
It is, yes.
Wow.
You can look it up afterwards. It's really interesting. But it's just like the whole malaise here is, why should I work? If I'm a business person, I'll just get hit like a soldier at the Somme. And if I'm not a business person, I might as well just sit at home and watch daytime TV and all work for the public sector, etc. So the motivation there is zero, and that's why we don't have the Magnificent Seven in this country. We have like we have like 1 or 2 companies who like Arm was fantastic, but then it got taken over. And Games Workshop got presumably taken over by Elon Musk or somebody. We really need to sort ourselves out, and we only had one really entrepreneurial period in the last, the post-war period, which was during the Thatcher era. which is effectively a 5-year period. It was like 1984 to 1988 or 1983. It was, 5 years when there were the yuppies and there was all the other, people, trying to make money, and it was fashionable. But since then, it's been, it's difficult to see, it's the culture we have, which is the problem. It is a culture of why should I bother? And when somebody makes it, oh, he's a rich so and so, and we hate him. We'll scratch his Rolls Royce. It's
They
that
seem to
kind of
get
mentality.
penalized for it, don't they?
It is,
The
and
success,
we're it's
the hard
also, I
work.
mean, like even the way you talk, oh, he's a posh person, or we still have all those problems, or I would say, oh, they're from up north, the grim north and everything. We need to sort ourselves
Whoever
out.
you are, you can't win.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to sort ourselves out in that way, and
Yeah,
hopefully
there
when
needs to
I'm
be a
prime
shift of
minister,
mentality, doesn't
hopefully when I'm prime minister, when the petition succeeds, then I'll start changing things. But there we are.
I look forward to that time.
On
As I'm
that
sure
note,
my
Molly,
listeners do, Zach. Anyway, it's been lovely to speak to you.
see you next week.
And yeah, thanks, Zach. See you next week.
Cheers.